Hallucinogens will kill you. Here's how to survive. Hallucinogens are psychoactive substances that can cause hallucinations, anomalies in perception, and other significant changes in consciousness, thoughts, and emotion. Although the mechanics of how they work are not completely clear, research has indicated that they disrupt communication between neurotransmitter systems in the brain and spinal cord, tasked with regulating sleep, hunger, perception, mood, muscle control, and sexual behavior. The most common types of hallucinogens are deliriants, dissociatives, and psychedelics. In 1646, Sir Thomas Browne coined the term hallucination, derived from the word hallucinare, which in Latin means to wander in the mind. In his book, The Doors of Perception, Aldous Huxley described the experience induced by psychedelics with the introduction of the reducing valve concept. This idea suggests that the brain is no longer able to filter or to selectively prevent certain emotions, memories, thoughts, and perceptions from reaching the conscious mind. From this perspective, psychedelics have been regarded as consciousness expanding or mind expanding, as some believe them to have the ability of expanding what our conscious mind might experience. The reasons for using hallucinogens vary and are based on religion, introspective, spiritual, recreational, or psychotherapeutic motives. The effects that these substances have on the users are viewed by many as dangerous and unpredictable. Since 2008, hallucinogens have been deemed illegal in most of the world's developed countries, and possessing them is considered to be a crime that is punished through fines, imprisonment, and, in some countries, even death. Number 4. Luke Smith. After an adverse LSD reaction, 15-year-old Luke Smith stabbed his uncle and his father with a 9-inch knife before being fatally shot by the police. Smith and one of his friends had taken the drug at his home in Santa Cruz, California. Smith, who had taken a larger LSD dose, reportedly started becoming aggressive towards his friend, who left the house soon after. When his uncle and father came to the house, the teen stabbed them both. Both men survived, and Smith's uncle called 911. When the police arrived on the scene, they reportedly talked to Smith for over 13 minutes, trying to convince him to let go of the knife. The police set a K-9 unit on the boy and used sponge rounds and a taser on him in an effort to subdue him. When these attempts failed to separate the teen from the knife, Deputy Chris Vigil opened fire and shot the teen in the chest, killing him almost instantly. Hallucinogens can be found in nature, in certain mushrooms and plants, or extracts from them, or they can be man-made. There are various types of hallucinogens which are present around the world. A great portion of them are trafficked illegally on the street or, in more recent years, on the internet. Ayahuasca is a dissociative tea that consists of several plants from the Amazon. The primary mind-altering ingredient present in its composition is called dimethyltryptamine, also known as DMT. This powerful chemical can be made in a laboratory, or it can be found in certain Amazonian plants. Historically, it has been used by indigenous cultures in the Amazon for healing and divinatory purposes. D-lysergic acid diethylamide, or LSD, is among the strongest chemicals when it comes to mood-altering potential. The primary component is the lysergic acid, which can be found in a type of fungi that grow on rye and other grains. Under the name Delicid, it was introduced as commercial medication for different psychiatric uses in 1947. The CIA carried out several experiments to see if LSD could be used for chemical warfare or mind control in the 1950s. Psilocybin is derived from mushrooms in the tropical and subtropical regions of South America, Mexico, and the United States. Peyote is a spineless cactus of small size that has mescaline as a central ingredient. DXM, or dextromethorphan, is a cough suppressant and mucus clearer that is the main component in certain cold medicine, which can be found in the form of gel capsules, syrups, and tablets in pharmacies around the world. Ketamine is a popular dissociative hallucinogen, typically used as an anesthetic for animals and humans during surgery. A lot of the ketamine that is trafficked on the streets, usually referred to as Special K or just K, most likely comes from a veterinary office. Developed in the 1950s as a surgery anesthetic, phencyclidine or PCP was discontinued from its medical use and deemed illegal due to its severe side effects. Depending on the hallucinogen, there are several ways in which they can be introduced in the human organism, including ingestion, injection, or inhalation. Number 3. David Caquillas. New York accountant and father of 3, David Caquillas jumped out of the window of his Manhattan office while high on PCP. The ad firm that Caquillas was working for was doing a retail project, and that is why there were some mannequins in his office. A hotel worker from across the street reported that the 43-year-old started screaming around his office while punching and kicking the glass on his office window. According to the New York Post, he was shouting, "They're after me, they're after me." Caquillas was hallucinating that the mannequins were trying to attack him. He reportedly managed to open one of the 4th-floor windows and leapt to his death. A co-worker told a media outlet that the man had smoked PCP earlier that day, and one of his bosses claimed that he had had a history of drug abuse. Drugs like mescaline, LSD, PCP, and psilocybin can alter the way in which a person perceives reality. They disrupt nerve cell interaction and the neurotransmitter serotonin that is distributed throughout the brain and spinal cord. The serotonin system is tasked with controlling the perceptual, behavioral, and regulatory systems. PCP acts through a receptor in the brain that is important for perception, learning, memory, and responses to the environment. It can often cause violent reactions and induce an aggressive mentality. While numb on PCP, the users experience less pain, which means that the threshold is pushed farther, thus endangering their lives. The distorted perception of reality that hallucinogens induce places the users in danger of injury and death. Some hallucinogen users have committed suicide. Some argue for the medical potential that these substances have and for their ability to expand consciousness. There has not yet been proper medical and scientific research documenting the effects that the drugs have on human health, and therefore, there are risks that users expose themselves to. Used in high doses, ketamine can lead to high blood pressure, delirium, amnesia, and potentially deadly respiratory problems. Some hallucinogens might cause the user to experience excited delirium, meaning that they cannot stand still, they become excessively active, incoherent, and paranoid. Respiratory collapse and cardiac collapse are among the dangers that a person in this state faces. Salvia divinorum, a hallucinogenic plant that is common in parts of Central and South America and in the south of Mexico, is believed to have the potential of triggering psychotic episodes. Long-term psychedelic users may suffer from a condition called hallucinogenic persisting perception disorder, where the visual effects of the drug can last for extended periods of time or even be permanent. Medicine and science have not yet explained what determines this condition. A long-term use of MDMA or ecstasy can lead to the formation of free radicals, which are particles that have been associated with cell damage and a possible factor behind senility, schizophrenia, Alzheimer's, and Parkinson's disease. Some hallucinogens also have an addictive potential. Number 2. Chevron Thomas. After smoking marijuana laced with PCP, 34-year-old Chevron Thomas decapitated Zaire, her toddler son, and then took her own life in August 2012. In 2010, she lost custody of her 2-year-old son due to the fact that she had left him unattended in the car for a long time. She admitted that this happened because she had smoked PCP-laced marijuana and then blacked out in the park. In April 2012, Thomas's son was returned to her custody after state workers considered her fit to care for the boy. 5 months later, in a 911 conversation, she told a dispatcher that her son had been stabbed. At first, the woman blamed her boyfriend for the attack, but then she admitted having been responsible. When the police arrived at her house, they found the child's headless body on the floor and Thomas in an upstairs bedroom. She slashed her throat as the police officers were trying to persuade her to surrender. She died before they could reach her. Police officers reported having found Zari's head in the freezer. A toxicology report described the presence of PCP in Thomas's body. There are numerous organizations and rehabilitation facilities around the world that offer support to hallucinogen users. They offer counseling and treatment, as well as information regarding the dangers that users might face. Giving them up after long-term use will most likely cause a person to experience withdrawal that can be uncomfortable both physically and psychologically. There are, however, treatments that can ease withdrawal symptoms. Number 1. Ayahuasca Ceremonies. In recent years, there have been many tourists traveling to South America hoping to achieve spiritual enlightenment through rituals involving ayahuasca. Some have argued for the positive aspects of the experience, while others report talk of robbery, assault, total amnesia after consuming the plant, and even death. In September 2015, while he was backpacking in Peru, 24-year-old Matthew Dawson Clark took part in an ancient Amazonian cleansing ceremony which involved drinking ayahuasca. The drug was included in a 7-day retreat where people who drank the psychedelic tea were said to experience spiritual awakening and a cleansing of the toxins in the body through yawning, sweating, shaking, crying, diarrhea, and vomiting. An experienced shaman guided them through the psychedelic process, which would reportedly last between 6 and 10 hours. Unfortunately, the experience proved too much for the New Zealand backpacker. He died on the 3rd of September 2015. In another incident that took place at a Peruvian retreat, 29-year-old Joshua Stevens stabbed his lifelong friend Eunice Gomez to death using a kitchen knife. Reports on how the attack unfolded varied, some claiming Stevens had acted in self-defense. Both men had taken the powerful hallucinogen. In an interview he gave a media outlet, Stevens claimed Gomez had taken a double dose of ayahuasca and experienced a bad trip that caused him to initiate the attack. In August 2012, 18-year-old Kyle Nolan also lost his life during an ayahuasca ceremony. In an attempt to cover up his death, Jose Pineda, who was the shaman at the resort, and 2 other men had buried the body, burned Nolan's belongings, and told his family that he had left. When the 18-year-old did not arrive home, his mother and sister flew to Peru to help local authorities in their search. They asked taxi drivers and locals if they had seen him, but their search produced no results. They returned to California, and a week later, they were contacted by Peruvian police, who told them that the shaman had confessed to hiding the body after finding Nolan dead under a bush. The shaman had also told authorities that Nolan had died because he had taken too much ayahuasca. According to Peruvian media, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison. This leads to painful second-degree burns which blister. Left without proper medical attention, they become a source of infection, which complicates the scarring and loss of function. Irons should always be turned off immediately when not in use, and children especially should be reminded of its dangers and the fact that it takes a while to cool down after being switched off.